You cannot serve two masters. Either you hate one and love the others, or be faithful to one and despise the other. You can't serve God and money. Many of you in your pews say to me, hold it. If I don't have money, if I don't have enough for my family, who is going to do it? You? And the answer can be found in the readings we just found today. First of all, that responsorial psalm, if you really look into it, there is the meaning of today's liturgy. And you, Carmel has sang very beautifully, and say, trust in Him and pour your heart to the Lord. But I like to go in the first reading today because that is the history of the chosen people, which is the history of every human being. After God brought them out of Egypt and brought them to the promised land, they found themselves being attacked by the people of the people that they take possession of their land. And they turn to one another and say, even God abandoned us. And unfortunately, that is sometimes the saying of each one of us, that sometimes we think that God has forsaken us. And the scripture today, by the words of Isaiah, said, can a mother forget the fruit of her womb? And even if she does so, I will never forget. In the gospel today, we find that prophecy was answered in the words of Jesus. When He said, look at the birds. They don't reap, they don't sow, they don't gather into their barns, but none of them dies. I always wonder, during those storms, when we have this much snow, where they go for rescue, to shelter them, and where they find food. But they do. And look at the lilies, and look at the flowers. Few weeks from now, it's your flower that you have in your garden. Before you know it, you begin to see the first leaf, and also then you see a flower come out of the bowl, and you see the beauty of it. And that not last more than a day, 2, 3, a week. And Jesus said, even in the beauty of Solomon, the kings in those days used to dress splendidly. And He said, in all his splendor, in all his galleria that He has, He will never look like one of them. And these, today they are, and tomorrow they are thrown into the oven. How much more you are precious to God than a bird or a flower. The first principle that we have to keep in mind is that God is love. And because He loves so much, He creates. So He creates not because He has to, He creates because He loves so much. And whatever God creates is good. And what God creates, He conserves. It's not like me, I do a table and tomorrow I don't like it, put it in the basement, or even sometimes destroy it, to take the wood out of it. What God creates is good, and He conserves what He creates. Look at the cosmos. How beautiful those stars, and that moon, and that sun. Everything works together. Why? Because the one who made them is so perfect and so full of love that He created everything and He gave them to you and to me. And that's why we are created in His image. Because He loved us so much that He wants us to be part of Him. Don George used to say, Don George is the saint from Malta, that we are so attached to God, it's like a fish in the water. A fish cannot live on its own without the water. And that is the same thing. We cannot exist if not for Him. But I'd like to go today, that second reading, where St. Paul reminds the people of Corinth that what they are saying, that he is not an apostle and so forth, because we are reading about the disturbance in the church of Corinth and how he is writing to really correct some of their behaviors, because they are not Christian behaviors, and we are going to see it later. Unfortunately, Lent is going to start. We are going to see St. Paul today remind them that he is a steward. And the office of a steward, the job of a steward, is to be faithful, to be trustworthy. And he said, I am trustworthy with what God has given me. Because I understand I was called to evangelize. I was called to make him known. And because of this, I don't care if you judge me or not. Because after all, I don't really consider your judgment to be fair. Because you don't know me. You are judging the outside of me, but you don't know me, really. And because of that, I am waiting for one judgment, and that is from the Lord. Although I don't judge myself and I don't accept your judgment, I am not acquitted because I have to face judgment one day with the Lord. And because I have to face judgment, I say to you, do not pass judgment to other people. Because God does not judge us before we die. Neither we can judge other people. Because many times we have so much to say about that individual, but we don't know nothing about that individual. Because many times we put those masks, and sometimes we pretend that we are not. And sometimes we pretend that we are going through a hard time, and sometimes that hard time equal to somebody's hard time is nothing. So what is the meaning today? The meaning is providence. That we trust in God's providence. That we trust that God will take care of us. That we trust that God will always be there for us if we just have faith in Him. Jesus is not asking us to be stupid. You have to think about tomorrow. And you have to think about those who depend on you. You have to invest for those who are really depend on you. Because tomorrow comes before you know it. But you don't make money your God. That's what Jesus is saying to us. Look at your pews today. Why are they empty, those pews? Because people think about one thing. This. And pleasure. That's all. That's what they want. They want that they will have food and they will have entertainment. That's all they care today. Because the faith of God is not part of their lives. Unfortunately, it's not all their fault. I always say they become that way because somebody else made them that way. My dog acts the way he acts because I make him act that way. And we humans are not lesser than a dog with reason. All of us are animals with reason. Do you know that? The way you raise your children is the way their children want to turn. There is no if or but about it. And don't tell me, yes, Father, you used to take them to church, and they used to, yes, you take them to church. But where were you? You were with them, or you dropped them at Saturday, or you dropped them at church and you went shopping, or dropped them to us to be your babysitter and you went doing your errands. Do you think the children does not have common sense to make one and one make two? And then what happens when they become young people? You don't continue to insist in them the importance of a relationship with God? Then you wonder why many of them turn to be, abusive of substance and alcohol and everything, because human nature, from its very nature, seek a superior than itself. And that superior, we know it as God, who we know Him that He loves us so much because He created us in His image. And if you don't have Him, you are going to make another God. Who makes money God, who makes drugs God, whether prescribed or illegal, who makes, alcohol God. We make gods because we seek a higher power than we are. And that is exactly why human nature, from its very nature, is called to religion, is called to worship. And that's why we need to understand that we as parents, you are the builders of society. Tomorrow depends totally and completely on you, whether you like it or not. Although you are going to have this child for 6 years, 5 years in your care, because then you are going to throw him in the care of education, whatever education you select. You are going to have this child and you are going to form this child. And you don't begin to form this child when he is 3 or 4 or 7. You begin when he is 1 day old. Because he cried. He came the word of tears. What can you do? It's a word of tears. He cried. Let him cry. My mother used to say, cry now. Then you make me cry tomorrow. You have to understand that you are the parents. You are not equal with the children. And this business, they are my bodies and they are one. Does not work. That's why God created you first, and then you have children. To understand that you are now taking care of these people, young people. And they are going to learn from you how to love. They are going to learn from you how to respect. They are going to learn from you anything that you want them to learn. And with the help of other people in education, whether in the spiritual or intellectual, you are going to make out of them the man and the woman of tomorrow. That is exactly what God intended for us as parents to do and educators to do. And that's why our providence depends on Him, because we do the best we can and then we leave it in His hands. But you don't expect that God is going to throw, as we say, apples to you if you don't plant a tree. You have to do the job, and then God will help you. God helps those who help themselves. And that is exactly what St. Paul is trying to remind us, that we are stewards. Steward of the mystery of God. A few moments from now, you are going to come to that baptistry and you say to me, yes, we want Matthew, we want Daniel to be baptized. It's very simple. You are the one who are knocking at the door of the church and to ask church to be baptized. And so the church take it for granted that you are mature people. That long time ago when you promised your marriage to each other, you love each other so much that that love for each other, the mutual love, expressed itself in Daniel and Matthew. So Matthew and Daniel is the expression of your love. And because they are expression of your love, you love them so much that you want them to give them the best. And the best is not because grandma wants to be baptized, because you want to be baptized. And baptism means that you are mature enough to be educated enough to know that baptism is the beginning of a journey with the Lord. At that baptism, you are going to say, yes, I want Matthew and Daniel to be baptized. At that very moment, you are taking the responsibility to raise these young people, because they don't know nothing today. I ask them what they want, till they come to maturity, and also they come to a sense when they have their sense of reason. You are going to take the responsibility to teach them about this faith. They're going to be put in that water of baptism. At that very moment, the grace of God is going to influence them. At that very moment, you are going to take what is sinful and make it grace. And so at that very moment, you are going to share these children in the paschal mystery of Christ, who died and rose for us, for our salvation. We are going to give them this white bib, which is indicating that now they are not anymore Matthew, they are not anymore Daniel, but they are now Christ. And because they put on Christ, now they have to act like Christ. How they are going to learn that? How to act like Christ? That's why the priests say, may they be also sharer in the ministry of Christ as prophet, priest, and king. As priests, because each one of us, by virtue of baptism, we become priestly people. And that's why at the altar I invite you and say, pray for me, dear people, that our sacrifice be acceptable to you and I. We are offering the sacrifice of the altar. And that's one thing I insist. Do you want your marriage to continue to be? Sunday Mass. That's the answer. When Sunday Mass is out of the question, I say goodbye. We'll see you at the lawyer's office. You know what it is? Many people whom I know. I married lots of people in 30 years. And when I had that paper from the tribunal, because I used to be an advocate on the tribunal, and I see my name attached to that marriage, I used to, because they were so lovely. When they come in my office, you know what that means. I love him, Father, you know. Yeah. What happened to that I love him so now? You know, after 5 years, 25 years of marriage, they don't love each other anymore. What a joke. But the only thing is this, dear people, you are going to teach these children what you really are. If you are really in love with each other, express that love in front of them. Let them see it. Because they are going to look at you and they learn from you how to make their future a beautiful future. Because they see something beautiful in you. They're going to learn from you how to love. They're going to learn from you how to respect. Today we have a generation that they don't care about nobody but themselves. Me. It's like they exist by themselves. Some of them, they need to go to the moon, because they belong there. Moonies, what they are. Everything is me. Nothing else. Nothing else that care. They don't care about this, they don't care about that. How much you are going to give me, what I am going to gain about me. Even people, well, Father, I go to church, the church is boring because I get nothing out of it. You don't come here to get, you come here to give. Do you remember the words of Kennedy? Do you remember that? You don't know the words of Kennedy? Oh. Are you American citizen? Do not say what the country can do for me, what I can do for my country. And that is the philosophy of the Catholics. I hope we raise it on top of the churches. What I can do for my church. St. Paul said, I am steward for the church. I don't care if I step on your nerves. I don't care if I hit something that is not good in your life. Maybe you can change it. I don't care to point fingers at me and tell me who I am and tell you what to do. I don't care about nothing, St. Paul said. I have one mission, and was given to me by Christ at Damascus when I was converted. So, why are you persecuting me? Who are you, Lord? I am Jesus. Go now, and the church will tell you what to do. And from that day, he said, I begin preaching him and make him known in every synagogue, even to the point of suffering, to the point of being beaten, throwing out of towns, put in jail, see even shipwreck, see even hunger and thirst, rejected by the locksmith who incited all the women to take me out and take me out of Philippi. But I don't care, because I have one thing in mind, and that is to make him known. It's not me who lives, but he lives in me. And I tell you, I have run the race. I have won the fight, and I want you to remember that like me, you too will receive the crown of everlasting life. And like me, you don't care what the people think of you. If in your conscience there is nothing that bothers you, because the conscience is the thermostat by which God speaks to us, continue to move on and to make Jesus known by your life and the people you touch in your life. My dear people, this is the message for you parents. To be a parent today is not fun. To be a parent today is not an easy life. To be a parent today is a full-time job. And I am telling you, although your job is important, your first priority is your marriage. In that marriage, the mutual love you have for each other brought forth this child who is the love of your life. How much joy that child brought to your home. Whenever you come home, you don't go and see what you have in the refrigerator. Hey, how you doing then? How you doing man? Because they are the joy of your life. Even if you are hungry, if you are thirsty, even if you are hot, if you are tired. Because they revive you. They do something to you. And that is what God intended for us to do. To always depend on Him. Do the job He gave us. And don't ever think twice. Don't even to think twice that there is something missing. Because there is not enough of this and enough of that. Because if your heart is in God, God will never let you go for once. Seek first the kingdom of God, and everything will be given to you. Build the kingdom. Here is the kingdom, Matthew and Daniel. These are the kingdom of tomorrow. These are the church that we are going to entrust to. You are the builder. And many times the builder, when he has that piece of wood, that piece of stone in his hand, he has to carve it, he has to trim it, he has to cut it, he has to do things to it. But sometimes you say, you ruin a piece of wood. And then we know that that piece of wood is going to be the one that is going to hold the building together. That is what you are. You are, as we say, the builders of the church of tomorrow. And that church that you have at home, which we call a domestic church, is going to be the beginning of our parish life. And then what you have home, you bring it here. And then what we have together, we share it. Because that's why God provides for us. Not only for me, but for those who are in dependence of me, but also to share with those who come in their needs when they request from us. It's not only that God gives me, but how much I am a steward to give of what God gave me to others too. And the more I share my goodness and my love to others, the more God will bless me. On the behalf of the parish of St. Rita, I ask God's blessing upon this church with Jared and the Edwards family. And may the Lord be with you. And remember, as a community, we promise that we will be here for you. You support us, we support you. Help us to make these young people to be authentic Christians. And you will be proud of their achievement. And we as a church will glorify God that He continued to show His love through these children and also to strengthen us that tomorrow is secure because we have people who have heads on their shoulders and their responsibility is sincere. God bless you.